Hey everyone, welcome back to this special section regarding Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse. As a reminder, we're going to be talking about Hindu theology, especially the Upanishads today. I'm going to focus on particular words such as Prajapati, Upanishads, Atman, Brahman, Satya. We're going to go over these and explain them today. If you really enjoy Hindu theology, you may want to pick up this book that I wrote, Devanagari Primer for non-Hindi speakers. This will teach you to read in Devanagari, which is this right here. You can see it right here, which is the Hindi script. It's used for Hindi. It's similar to some other North Indian scripts, but it's used a lot of times for Sanskrit. And we're going to be talking about Sanskrit today because we're going to be talking about the Upanishads and the Vedas, which were written in Sanskrit. Let me give you a little bit of background on this. Sanskrit is an ancient language. It's like, for the West, Latin and Greek are the ancient languages, and Latin is basically the father of all the Romance languages. And we look back in the West at Latin and Greek and think, oh, those were the languages that we came from, even if you are a Germanic language. Well, in the same way, Sanskrit is what the Vedas came from. Sanskrit is an Indo-European language. It is related to the European languages. It's also related to Persian. So when the Caucasians, or whatever they were, the Indo-European speakers, left, I think it was around the Balkans, they left and went out. Some of them seem to have gone into Europe and the Middle East, and the others went to Persia and to India. And India, the ancient Indian books and the ancient Persian books of the Zoroastrians have similar language and similar ideas. And the ancient Hindu scriptures are similar to some of the beliefs of Europeans from the old mythology, like the Norse mythology, Greek mythology, things like this. Okay, so Sanskrit is a language that is mostly a dead language. It's used for rituals. So I'm sorry if that bored you, but today we're going to talk about these terms. So we've come across them in here, the Rig Veda, the Atman, Brahman, and Brahmins, but Brahman, and Satya. So the name of Brahman. So what are these? So I took from two different books that I really like. One is Introduction to Hinduism. You will see what I've written here. You can slow it down and you will see what I quote. I will also put it in the description. Also the Hindus by Wendy Doniger. So let's start with the Upanishad. Let's start with the Rig Veda. It's actually Rig Veda or something like that. Rig Veda. This was the first of the Hindu scriptures. The mythology is much different from the Hindu scriptures that we know now, or Hinduism in general as we know it now. They worshipped often horse gods, thunder and lightning. Think of Zeus. Think of Odin and some of these. They're very similar to this, because the original Hindus, what we call the Hindus now, the original, I guess, Brahmins and Kshatriyas, they were from the steppes, which are like where the Turks in Turkmenistan and all of this. These are the steppes in Uzbekistan and places like this. So they were pasture people, So they had the Rig Veda. Then the other Vedas were made from this, the Brahmanas, and Artaveda, or I'm sorry, I'm going to mess it up. But after these were made, something changed. There was a commentary created on these. They were called the Upanishads. The Rig Veda is very direct. It's about gods. This god did this. This god did this. Here, Indra goes with his lightning bolts and throws them, and he drinks soma, and it's very. And we do these religious rituals to propitiate him, and this is what happens in those. But the Upanishads take a different view. They say the gods were actually created by Atman, actually by Brahman, not Brahmins, not Brahman, and we're going to talk about what Brahman is, but it's basically the world soul. If you know any philosophy from European philosophy, it's called monism, where everything is God. God is in everything, and everything is part of God. Okay? Brahman is the life. It's the life of the world. What is Brahman? Well, this is very different from having gods, right? Well, according to the Upanishads, they got the idea that the gods actually came from Brahman. The gods themselves are limited. They are great, but they are limited, just like we are. Of course, they're much more powerful than us. Well, in the book, as we're reading it, remember that Siddhartha says he's not happy. Why? Because he wants to know Atman. He doesn't mean, and we'll explain what this means, but this is Brahman. He is like, if this is what created the gods, and if Brahman is unknowable, I want to know that. I don't want to know the gods. I don't want to do things for the gods. I want to know that. So that's what the Upanishads are about. And if you're looking here, you can see I'm adding a bunch of notes. This is the text of Siddhartha, and now I have add a bunch of notes. I take from Introduction to Hinduism by Gavin Flood, and I also take from The Hindus by Wendy Doniger right here. The Hindus by Wendy Doniger. So, what are the Upanishads? The Upanishads represent the culmination of a process. So it's this process which comes to regard the individual self as having great inner depths. The truth, or Satya, truth is Satya, and Satya is God. God is truth. Is the absolute Brahman, again, God, the world soul, which is also the self, Atman. So God is this life giver, this world soul. He's not a person, or she. It is not a person. And that Atman, our Atman is our soul, our essence. And that is part of the great Atman. That is the Upanishads. The Upanishads say that you find God by looking inside yourself, that you are truly infinite, not because you are so great, but because Atman is great. Brahman, Atman with a capital A is Brahman. Okay, this is the essence of the Upanishads, and it comes to be kind of the essence of Hinduism. So at the bottom here, I'm going to go down to the bottom. The basic Hindu philosophy that the ultimate principle of reality, Brahman is real reality. The ultimate principle of reality is present in every soul of every living creature. Notice every living creature. That means animals too. So the ultimate reality is Brahman. If we see through this world looks so real, but it's actually an illusion. If we can see past this, we can see Brahman uniting everything together. If we can see past this, we can see Atman, and we'll see that that is connected to Brahman. and therefore it's connected to everything. This is the oddness of Hindu philosophy. And I would say Eastern philosophy overall has some of this in it. Though, if you look at Japan, Japan has Shinto and Japan has Buddhism. Buddhism comes from this. Shinto does not. There are some things that are similar, but Shinto is very different from Buddhism. Same in China. The Tao Te Ching has some similarities with Buddhism, but it's also very different. Okay, so if Brahman is in everything, we have to talk about reincarnation. So in Hindu philosophy, the person is reborn over and over, and this is a violence. Being reborn over and over again is a violence. And according to your karma, according to your works, you may become something small, like a cockroach. You may become something big, like a Brahman, right? Because they believe in the caste system. They believe the Brahmins are the greatest. You might become a Brahman. And then from a Brahman, you might reach nirvana and end this cycle of rebirth, this violence of rebirth. What will you do? According to the Upanishads, you would become one with Brahman again. That's the basic of what this is. So what is Satya? Satya is seeing through all this. And the duty of a person is to see through what is untrue. What is untrue? This is untrue. What is true? Brahman. But we can't see this with our eyes, can we? Let me give an example of meditation. Buddhism says, and this is good to know when we know about Siddhartha, Buddhism says that language is a trap. Notice Siddhartha said, in the earlier one, go back and watch, that Brahman isn't in the consciousness or the thoughts or the words. But how else do we know Brahman? We know him through experience, or it through experience. How do we know this? When one meditates, meditation gets you past thought and consciousness and language. Language is consciousness. And no, language isn't consciousness, so I shouldn't say that. But language makes our world around us. It says, I am a father. I am a son. But you're not just a father and a son, you're many things. Language is a trap. Buddhism and the Upanishads tells us that we need to get past that. How do we do it? By meditating and not thinking anymore. What happens when you don't think? You experience. I have to admit, I have experienced this in my life. I went through a very, very hard time, and I was forced to do this because I was in a lot of pain psychologically. And when I learned to do this, I found myself. It's the same self that I've known since I was a child. It's the self that doesn't tell stories. It's the self that experiences. It doesn't have a language. It just knows. It's not a magical self. It's that self behind the mask we put up. That is what we are talking about. Let's look at some other quotes to make sure I'm not skipping things, okay? Prajapati. We mentioned Prajapati. Who is Prajapati? According to the Brahmanas, he is the Lord that creates the deities. He created all the deities. Okay, all the things were born from Prajapati. But I believe even Prajapati is born from Brahman. Even Prajapati comes from somewhere. So Siddhartha says, if Prajapati created all the gods, why do I go to the gods? Well, if Prajapati himself was created, who do we go to? We go to the one that created him. And in Hinduism, we find that it is not a person like in Christianity or something. It is a world soul. Brahman. Okay, so originally Brahman meant the rituals, the power of ritual. but it changed to become the essence of the universe, the being at the heart of all appearances. Okay, how do we explain Brahman? One is, I could point to a seed. I can break open the seed. Can you see Brahman? No. But if you put the seed in the ground, a plant grows. So Brahman was in it. Life was in it. But you couldn't see it. And the other that I already talked about is if you put salt in water, what happens? It disappears, right? But if you drink it, it's salty. Where did the salt go? That salt is Brahman. That's the idea of Brahman. Brahman is not only the essence of ritual, but also the essence of the true self, the Atman, the truth beyond all apparent differences. So we see another person and us, we're really not separate. That's the essence of the Upanishads. And the Upanishads call for a change of life. They call for you to change your life, to see the world differently. They call for action. And we see that in what's going on with Siddhartha. He's being called to action. The Upanishads and explain that the understanding of Brahman is a joy. It is true joy to understand Brahman. To see past this world is true joy. I'm not going to say whether that's true or false, I don't know. But according to this, to see past that is true joy. And we can see that in Buddhism. By seeing past all this, we get past suffering. And we ultimately achieve nirvana, which is oneness with truth. And also, actually, I think according to Buddhism, it means you don't exist any longer. It frees you from rebirth. It also is truly joyful. It's a true joy. We also needed to talk about the Shramanas. In this, it's called the Sramanas. Sramanas. Well, it's actually Shramanas. And they are the people that are austere. They are what we think of when we think of the yogis that are really, really thin. They are harsh on their body. Why? Because they believe their body isn't what is real. They need to get beyond it to the truth. We're going to see that Siddhartha joins them. They are the renouncers. They renounce the world. They won't be part of the world anymore. And these are the two parts of Hinduism. Being part of the world is being part of caste. Because being part of caste, being part of the world is being part of society. You have a role. You have a household. You are not a person. You are a part of society. When you are a renouncer, you become a person. You become an individual. You get to experience the world. You become an individual that seeks God themselves. And this is what Varanasi is about. Varanasi or Kashi or Banaras is where people go to die in Hinduism. Right now, unfortunately, we're seeing this as people are cremated because of COVID, but there's a cremation site in Varanasi. You go alone. You stay in Varanasi. You stop doing works because you don't want to build up karma anymore. And you get ready to die. Then you die, you're burned, and you're put into the Ganga, and you escape from the cycle of rebirth. You escape. This is the idea that permeates Hinduism. Buddhism came out of the Shramanas, the people who renounced. It came out of the Upanishads. It came out of these groups. Another also did Jainism, but we won't talk about Jainism. Buddhism is the first world religion, the first religion that you can become part of, not by birth. Buddhism and the renouncers renounce the Vedas. They say, we don't follow the Vedas. We are going to experience God directly. And you see this in Indian philosophy. The difference between following ritual and experiencing God directly. Both of these are in Hindu thought. what we call Hindu thought. There are many different types of Hinduism. So I apologize, I'm generalizing. We should just say philosophy of South Asia. Let's see if I missed anything else. Yeah, here, according to this view, the renouncer is outside of society and has established their individuality. Let me see if there's anything else. I'm sorry, this is going very long. Yeah, you must change your life. Yeah, that's it. So I hope that this explains what the Upanishads are. They're a commentary that changes the way of seeing the gods. It's pointing to a reality beyond even the gods and beyond even the Vedic scriptures, though the Upanishads are part of the Vedic scriptures. The Shramanas, these are Sramanas, are renouncers. They reject their body. They do harsh austerities in order to seek oneness with God. What is Satya? Satya is truth. And the goal is to see what is real and what is not real. Remember, Brahman is what is real. What is Prajapati? We talked about Prajapati. So I think, and Atman, remember the Atman is the individual soul, and what is it connected to? The world soul. Okay, so this was very long. If you don't understand this, don't worry. We're going to keep talking about Siddhartha in the next time we meet, and I won't go over these things again. But once we have some ideas that build up again, I will stop and I will go over them again. If you have any questions, make sure to add them to the comments, or talk to me on RJK English. Everything will go on RJK English on Facebook as well. Make sure to like and subscribe. It really helps. If you like these videos, tell one other person about them, and make sure to like and subscribe. It will really help me out. And that's it. I will see you next time. We'll get back to Siddhartha. All right? See you.